I step away from y'all for a month, and since that time, we've had like 8 celebrity deaths and counting. We've had a hazing incident. Casey Anthony has come back, scared the shit out of me. That man in the big house causing chaos. And what else has happened? Just so much chaos. Mr. Fox from the iFuse podcast is back on YouTube. I know I've been gone for a long while, but I'm back with the jump off. Let's get into it. All right, you white motherfuckers, all eyes on me. This is the I Refuse podcast. This is Miss Fox, the I Refuse podcast. Better late than never. Was gone for about a month. Hope y'all haven't been foaming at the mouth. Podcast is still alive and well. Still putting out weekly episodes between the I Refuse podcast, wherever you get your podcast, Usual Suspects podcast, wherever you get your podcast. But I realized you haven't seen me on YouTube since the Grammys. I figured I'd get up on here real quick, give y'all Mixed Nuts 20, the world-renowned famous series over here at the I Refuse podcast. Show of hands, anybody else jump back when Casey Anthony came up on their For You page on TikTok? Bitch, scared the fuck out of me. I thought I saw Jeepers Creepers. The audacity of the caucasity. Just when we thought it was dangerous already out here, like air is expensive, gas is expensive, food is expensive, eggs is at $6 or $7 for a carton, 12 count. The first thing that popped up on my For You page on TikTok was Casey Anthony. In the comfort of her car. She talking about support, rally, all the key words, right? Trying to, just thinking we forgot. We didn't forget. The North definitely remembers. I don't even have to say a whole lot. It done got a lot of people's blood boiling to the point that Nancy Grace has broken the glass to get her unit out, put it on, come out of retirement, stare directly at us in the TV, and revisit her disdain for Casey Anthony. The North remembers when that whole trial and acquittal thing happened. Nancy Grace didn't hold back. Now here we are, almost 10 years later? And she didn't show her face again in broad daylight. Not only on broad daylight, but in social media. And I got to thinking, and I shared this with Abstract, my co-host on the Usual Suspects podcast. We just released 2 episodes the last 3 days. In the Killing Fields episode on the podcast, I had theories, we both did, as to what this means. And for those of you that have voted again for that man, you should really be sitting closer to this part of the episode. The comfort level And trust to believe that behind the scenes, because we've seen this before, when a person murders a child, um, I'll throw in allegedly. When a person murders a child, goes to, I guess, a fair trial and gets acquitted on all charges and gets to walk around scot free. And then, not too long after that, they reap the benefits of the infamy. First person that comes to my mind is George Zimmerman when he murdered Trayvon Martin and got off. Even with the bias in the phone call, the prejudice in the phone call, this need to protect a community that he is not a police officer for. He was saying little stuff on the phone call, the 911 call. He was told not to engage. He did anyway, interrupting a child's walk back home, engaged this child into a fight. When he saw that he was losing the fight, shot the kid. Tried to sell the gun, got to live and breathe amongst the rest of us who are not racist or biased against blacks or minorities, who actually made something of our life. When I saw her, I instantly thought of him because this is the way it's been for a while, right? And I feel like Casey Anthony, like Derek Chauvin, like anybody that has debunked justice and has somewhat of a Teflon Don skin on them, can't touch them, can't take matters into your own hands. Me never really in a whole lot of white people business. The trajectory of this woman's resurgence months after that man's been put back in office wasn't lost on me. We have gotten to a point where a little bit of fame gives people a lot of money. And whether you want to believe it or not, anybody that has live reacted, done a duet on TikTok, only drives up her engagement. Engagement means more phone calls. Engagement means more endorsements. And I'm willing to bet that since the trial and the acquittal, she's been supported financially. It's all about popularity. It's all about getting behind something, even if it's the worst possible thing. That poor girl, Kaylee, parents and grandparents did her wrong. And that was right out of Florida, right? Y'all keep retiring and moving to Florida. It's just a whole nother planet down there. And it's the empowerment and the entitlement. Like nobody asked y'all to come back. Nobody prayed for it. Nobody was sitting around like, damn, I wonder what Casey Anthony is up to. we are at so many different trajectories of like conspiracy theories. Um, Anybody that has made a mark in history, worse more than better, you can make a little coin. And another theory is that I think what she's going to do, if she hasn't already been pitched a reality show or a speaking engagement tour or a podcast, she is definitely going to. This won't be the last TikTok video. It'll happen over time because again, the moment y'all saw her face, y'all engaged with her. Y'all engaged with that lady. They are going to. She is most likely going to go the same path as the Hawk Tour girl, and she is probably going to be the well. She's already the trending topic, but she may even. Well, she can't get a pardon because she was acquitted. Is that how that works? Something. I feel like something bigger is going to happen. That's going to come out of that White Hood house. Like, as soon as I saw her, I was like, we back here again? Like, we have the downside of social media is that it has leveraged, or dare I say, lowered the bar to where anybody can walk down the street, say something for 2 seconds, and then by next week, they got $1 million podcast. Or they're hawking some product. I blame y'all asses. I blame y'all asses. But like Freddy Krueger, Casey Anthony is back. Uh, what y'all think? What do you theorize is next? Like we've seen this roadmap before. Do a little TikTok, a little bit. She's already been on the news. Nancy Grace and breathed more life into her. And Nancy Grace looked good. Nancy Grace still, in 2025, Nancy Grace still looks like 2005 Nancy Grace. What's her secret? You done brought Nancy Grace out of retirement. Yeah, you are toast, lady. White people always doing some bullshit. Now, I often say on most I Refuse podcast episodes, my opening line is I was just minding my African American business. I was this close to the weekend. This close to the weekend. And we had back to back deaths in the world. I, like so many of y'all, initially when I got word that Gene Hackman had passed and the initial details about him and his wife, they were found and one of the 3 dogs that they had was dead. Door open, I thought carbon monoxide, right? I was like, carbon, it's something about this ain't sitting right with me. They were found back in February. in late February. He was found in the mudroom. She was found, I believe, in the bathroom with pills nearby. And I was like, okay, the carbon monoxide thing wasn't it. Something about this still ain't curling all the way around for me. I mean, granted, Gene Hackman was in his 90s, um, lived a relatively reclusive life for the last, 10 or so years. Had retired from acting a while ago. He and his wife been married since 1991. She was in her 60s. Cute lady. A violinist she was, I think. Living a cute little modest life in Santa Fe. And they were found. I was just like, maybe I've been watching too much Forensic Files and thought, but who would want to hurt Gene Hackman, really? Um, Come to find out, again, it wasn't carbon monoxide. He had heart disease, they say. His pacemaker last recorded on February the 17th, which is wild because that's like a whole week or two before they were found. And I said last week, I couldn't imagine having grown children not check on me for that long. Me and my mother check in every day, if not every week at least. And not too long after the news broke, his daughters are coming out of the supermarket, probably within the area, just smiling from ear to ear. And I was like, um, but everything was debunked when they said how he died and how his wife died. She had some kind of virus that took her life. Now I don't know if the pills were connected to fighting that. The one dog that died was still locked in the cage, which leads me to believe it was malnutrition. Dog locked in the cage for 2 weeks, 2 or so weeks without food. Yeah, he's gonna pass away. So still a sad way to go. It's something to be said when you are in your 90s or 60s or 70s or 80s and you essentially die alone. But again, even with all the details and the facts, y'all love to try to spin or get something started in the comment section. They told y'all how this man died and what he died from. Heart disease with Alzheimer's, a contributing factor. Um, y'all are still suspicious that y'all said that they died at the same time. Um, Dodo, they died in the same month. That doesn't mean they died like at the same time. She, first of all, this is the first time that you've heard of such a virus. Now, the moment that you hear how they died from that virus, you want to turn into Dr. Quinn. You don't know these people. Some of y'all probably couldn't name 5 Gene Hackman movies. That's no shade. Um, it's just something about that comment section, boy. It's like I can tell who doesn't go outside to touch a blade of grass and get a job. And y'all need to stop drinking that Kool-Aid. Cause I'm telling y'all, stop being so quick to think it's murder. Stop being so quick to think it was some Romeo and Juliet type of thing. I mean, anything is possible early on, but the coroner has the last say. Gene Hackman, man, what a life! It's just terrible. If you love cinema or the arts or anything, get into Gene Hackman's material. The French Connection, Hunt for Red October, No Way Out, which is my personal favorite. Uh, even one of the westerns. He's in Unforgiven, Enemy of the State, I believe, with Will Smith. Just so many roles. The Royal Tenenbaums, which I think is everybody's personal favorite. Um, if you like fine performances and being connected to a person, I recently went on YouTube and up on my timeline, the his episode of Inside the Actor Studio was on there, and I watched that. Within the first 5 or so minutes, you really see, the same kind of tortured longing and abandonment from family and isolation that is the caveat for great artists. James Lipton, rest in peace, had asked him, they got into the family stuff pretty early. His father leaving him at 13. And imagine still being affected by that in your 60s. Gene Hackman was in his 60s when he was on Inside Act Studio. Just think about it. A parent walking out, you just never really get over that. Even well into your 60s. But what's more than that is how interesting emotional turmoil as a kid makes you a great actor. And he said, I don't advocate for that. But it was in that moment that you saw something that you see in so many other artists. It makes you wonder, damn, tortured agony, being deserted, abused, mistreated as a child leads to great artistry. But unfortunately, you never quite survive that. One of the greats, man. And that's coming from somebody that's never really been clocked in like that on Gene Hackman. I seen him in some parts growing up. Of course, No Way Out was my personal favorite, like I said. Um, but there's something about the way he was found after weeks of not being checked on. Like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. You got grown kids. Um, that's the saddest part for me. I've been gone for a month. I've been gone for a month. In that time, in just a week's time, Roberta Flack passed away. I talked about that last Monday. Angie Stone passed away. I talked about that last Monday. And I was of the attitude that, the moment, there's this thing that happens when a person passes away, especially an artist. Everybody's like, oh, the queen of this, and oh, she meant so much to us, and the music streams and shit go up. And it's Mr. Foxy Refuse podcast, unpopular opinion, controversial take. Y'all can keep your well wishes and the please check on so and so and the rest in peace to the queen to yourselves. You know, the performative condolences and stuff. Because the last 10 or so years of Angie Stone's life in real time and what she's had to say about the time in the 90s when, especially over D'Angelo, y'all gave that lady hell. If she wasn't getting it from the industry, you know, of course, being cheated out of royalties and mechanicals, as she said, since her Sugar Hill days, um, being disrespected and undervalued by the industry because she was plus size, she was dark skinned. They loved the sound and the richness of her music, but as far as her look, y'all gave that lady hell. Oh, and then the moment y'all found out who the father of her son was, oh, 20 or so years, y'all, still to this day, even after that lady passed, if it wasn't her look and her size, it was the age difference. And y'all have been on this kick the last few years anyway. So caught up on this age difference. Oh, you know, he or she was 18, 19 years old, and the other person was in their 30s. Two adults of legal age. Like, y'all don't understand that y'all are teetering on libel, and y'all are trying to say stuff without actually saying it. Like, y'all don't have people in your family that have been under men since they were in middle school. Yes, Angie Stone may or may not have been in her 30s. I'm saying that because none of us were there. Yes, D'Angelo may or may not have been 19, 20 years old. I mean, he was 24 when Brown Sugar came out. No, wait a minute. Yeah, he was in his early 20s when Brown Sugar came out. And Angie Stone was in the background. Still an adult. See, but nobody's listening to what she's actually been telling us for years about D'Angelo because a lot of y'all only care about him getting naked on stage anyway. Y'all don't care about the actual man. That's the difference. And she not only, Angie Stone, was being disrespected by, like I said, the industry, but women to her face. Because y'all can't sit still. Y'all can't act professional in interviews when you conduct interviews over some man that is not even paying y'all any mind. And for the most part, is inconsistent, like she said. Unmotivated, doesn't want to work, yada yada yada. Hence why he lost his deal at Virgin. That's my theory. And y'all don't get albums every 2 to 3 years. Like you gotta think about it. Probably halfway, third of the way through the Voodoo tour, that man started to really like have meltdowns on stage because y'all would come to the shows and treat it like a sex show. Like, fuck all this music. Get naked, nigga. Yeah, y'all were rabid hormonal heifers in the 90s and the 2000s over D'Angelo. And y'all gave that lady hell. That was the exchange, right? And the gag is a lot of y'all have women that look like Angie Stone in y'all family. Somewhere in the family tree, somewhere in your ancestry. I don't understand how you look down on certain shades and complexions when you have that as part of your bloodline. I'm not going to go too deep. This colorism thing, it had me thinking. Once I got past the details of how she died, how Angie Stone died, which that took me about 3 or 4 days. Um, she was in a Sprinter van, a nice high luxury Sprinter van with folks from her band and the driver, of course. The Sprinter van flipped about 3 times, and then an 18-wheeler came up from behind. My first theory was, how is it you are in a packed van with other people, yet you're the only casualty? When I saw the little Snapchat video that TMZ got from somebody, saw the condition of the van, saw a body next to the van under the white sheet, and got the details, I was like, this is too similar to Left Eye's passing. Left Eye passed a similar way. Packed SUV, packed vehicle. Left Eye was not wearing a seatbelt. Truck flipped, I don't know how many times. She's the only casualty. It's such a shame, right? Because this is the other thing. That happened not even 3 or 4 days after that video she made, Angie Stone, about UMG. I couldn't imagine giving 40 plus years of your life to an industry and you get cheated out of royalties and mechanicals and things like that. She was taught pretty early, well, a little late, since she was already on Sugar Hill, about the industry and the business. Yet, as she got older, on J Records and Arista and stuff, her budget was getting cut as Alicia Keys was blowing up. And she has to be let go out of her contract. And then she made that video about UMG. It was like, I got cheated out of this and that and this and that. And a lot of people could say, you just being bitter. And I personally was like, how is it you've come to this stage in your career and you're still getting cheated out of money? I'm the last person to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm not walking around with aluminum foil caps on my head. Like, it. But some things are just hard to ignore. Mere days after talking about UMG and posting videos, you essentially passed away in the same fashion, similar fashion, like Left Eye. But it's all around sad for me because that woman in the last 10 or so years of her life continued to be disrespected. And understand, like, she can I've said on several occasions that Angie Stone had a very stressful mouth. She wanted the respect from the younger vocalists, right? Oh, I was clocked in when she was on R&B Divas. She wanted the respect of younger vocalists as the senior diva, but even going too far as talking down to some of the women like they were children. Those of you that watch R&B Divas knows what I'm talking about. In the same fashion that she came at the girl from Brownstone, she was also kind of moving around a little shady and was rubbing other ladies the wrong way. Then come to the reunion. Those of us that were clocked in remember when Wendy Williams was hosting, I think there were two parts. In the last part, when she was on there with her boyfriend slash manager at the time, something came up during the reunion. You know, they were going back and forth already in front of everybody. Wendy turned to her and said, "Well, what about this rumor that the two of y'all are staying in separate hotel rooms?" Angie wasn't prepared for that. Got up, walked off crying, was having a fit backstage. The rest of the lady was like, "What the hell's going on?" And I was like, "Ooh, what's going on?" Come to find out, and Angie Stone has said this later on, that her boyfriend had been cheating on her with somebody from the production. And how she came to find out about it is that the girl in question thought she was texting her boyfriend when she was texting Angie's business phone. She saw the text. I was like, damn. Even in her 50s, she was continued to be disrespected by men in the industry. And nobody wanted to give her credit for the work she was doing behind the scenes. You know, it's just so funny that people on the outside, and they continue to do it, because, you know, they're only thinking about themselves, right? Only see what's in front of them, and they judge very, very harshly. You know, people are superficial, people do what they want. But you tell yourselves, when you change your treatment based on how a person looks and claim to be, you know, so evolved. Angie Stone, man, 62 years old, died in a car accident. Now, I don't know if she actually filed a lawsuit, and I doubt if the kids will actually see it through. It's just a terrible way to go. I'm scared of outside. I really am scared of outside right now. Like, I go to the grocery store, I get gas, and I come straight home. It's one of my fears is I'm on the highway and I get hit from behind, or my car topples. You know, them SUVs and them trucks and stuff. A lot of those vehicles have a tendency to do one of these numbers. I don't know how fast they were going. I don't know really at this point at what point did the truck play a role. Was the Sprinter van trying to swerve to avoid hitting another car, and then it just lost control and just toppled a few times? and then the 18-wheeler came, or was the 18-wheeler part of the car being ended up in that condition? I don't think we'll ever know. I don't think we'll ever know, but wear them seatbelts, I'm telling you. If that's what led to her being the only casualty, so early on, so many different theories, all of which coming from people that were not there. But that Sprinter van, even looking at the condition of it, I was like, there's no way anybody could survive that. And just when I had accepted and made peace with so many passings, 2025 was like, I got you, bitch. Yes, Angie Stone's passing crushed me. And more so because she had a couple of stains on her life the last 10 or so years. Y'all didn't treat that lady right. Y'all didn't value, just like y'all have a tendency not to value black women in general, you didn't value that woman and what she brought. And now it's all, the queen is gone, the queen is gone. Oh, there'll never be another like her. Please. My favorite member, like I would say an underrated member of one of my favorite groups from the 90s, and I would say all time, passed away from bladder cancer. Dwayne Wiggins. Just as soon as I heard that he was in hospice care, that part threw me out. Cause I'm like, he ain't that much, he ain't that old. But it's fuck cancer till the end of time. Dwayne Wiggins, 1/3 of the group Tony, like one of the premier R&B group bands of the 90s, um, really set the tone for me during my grade school, middle school years. Passed away from bladder cancer. Damn, literally like within 24 hours of the news that he was in hospice care. And I was still holding out hope because some folks survive hospice care. But however, he did not make it. And anybody that knows me, Mr. Fox Seraphis podcast, knows that he sings lead vocals on one of my favorite Tony songs, probably my all-time favorite. It's a deep cut, so to speak. Like, it's not really mentioned in the same conversation as Anniversary, Feels Good, Thinking About You, Little Walter, Baby Doll, It Never Rains in Southern California. Let's Get Down. What else do they have? So many, well, Me and You from Boys in the Hood. Whatever you want. Every time. And not only that, he was very instrumental in the original lineup of Destiny's Child getting their deal at Columbia Records. He signed them back in 1995 to his Grassroots Entertainment Company, which was, I think, based out of Oakland. And worked with them on music for their debut album. And they even did like a little documentary. The More You Know, I remember. Worked with them, was able to get them a deal with Columbia Records, and then of course it was on from there. If you're lucky, I don't know if it's on YouTube, but you can find the behind the scenes, the harmonies, the rehearsals, the recordings and stuff, them behind the scenes in the studio. What a time to be alive! What a time to be alive! And Tony, they when word came out that they were reuniting and going on tour, I was like, yes. But then, just as soon as we got the news, they said it wasn't happening for whatever reason. And I'm thinking maybe that was the reason why. But they did a couple of shows. We did a couple of shows. Whatever You Want was part of the set list. And it's one of those songs where it's like, oh, this is the one I'm staying on my feet to listen to, sing along with, know the lyrics. A lot of y'all don't talk about Whatever You Want as much as you talk about them other songs. And that's cool. But trust and believe, as soon as I get off of this episode, I'm playing that. But, it's, when I think of the passing of Dwayne Wiggins, who, like I said, wasn't that old. I think he was a couple years older than Raphael Saadiq, who's probably in his late 50s. But cancer, yo. When you think of, hey, all these back-to-back deaths, it's a somber reminder of our mortality. Life is short. It is fragile. Time is a thief. Any one of us could go in a split second. Roberta Flack passed away from cardiac arrest. She wasn't able to perform for a long time because of Lou Gehrig's, which rendered her unable to sing. But an icon, a legend, right? Jerry Butler from The Impressions, Angie Stone, Gene Hackman, Dolly Parton's husband, Dwayne Wiggins. Life is just so fragile. I keep my black ass in the house till 2025. But before I get up out of here, we have got to talk about this Caleb Wilson murder. And that's exactly what it is. They can spin it as unsanctioned hazing, whatever, but that boy was murdered. And Caleb Wilson was a student, was a fraternity brother at a university in Louisiana, right? Good grades, handsome brother, very young brother. Collapsed. Now, the story keeps changing. They first said it was at a warehouse. Then they said it was at a park. Then they said no this, no that. But they finally got... So Caleb Wilson, let me back up, along with like 9 other I guess, fraternity folks were lined up shoulder to shoulder and repeatedly punched in the chest by grown ass men wearing boxing gloves. Caleb Wilson took about 3 hits and collapsed. These grown ass men took him, well, literally drove up to a hospital, dropped him off, and left before the cops came. Now, fast forward to within the past couple of days, they got one of the guys. They arrested one of them. Y'all are trying to convince us that this man is 23. But maybe when Obama was president, no tea, no shade, he was 23 probably. But here's the thing that trips me out. He's not a fellow student. He is a member of the fraternity, right? But you've graduated. You're not like still going to classes. You pretty much have aged out of the student body experience. Yeah, you along with other frat brothers, probably postgraduate age, got your career, decided, once a frat brother, always a frat brother. Gonna come back to the campus, come back to the school, and do an unsanctioned hazing of either current or want to be part of a fraternity. Now, I've said my piece about, kids like Caleb Wilson. I said it on Usual Suspects podcast with myself and Abstract. We have got to step away from wanting to belong to something. I don't care if they've had a history back to the 13 colonies. There is something to be said when we are like almost 500 years removed from the 13 colonies and those age-old beliefs and stuff, like where we measure one's pride or one's ability to be worthy based on physical violence on each other. That's a gang. That's a cult. And this is aside from the reality that fraternities and sororities breed mean people. Like, y'all want to have the public real estate, the dance floor and stuff, to do y'all little dances, and then when y'all get in other people's ways, you want to get physically violent. We're not talking about that right now. What we're talking about is you bring in recruits or young frat bros or possible frat bros and test their loyalty to the cause, to the movement, to the history that hasn't been updated in their practices in I don't know how long, to a warehouse, and as you can possibly tell, I'm clocked in, and do these hazing rituals. And you did it off campus, which, A, you knew what you were doing, and B, that may serve as a loophole of liability for the campus, for the school. Which, if I was the parents, I would sue everybody. I would sue the school. I would sue the police department. I would definitely sue everybody else that was there and let that shit happen. Like, this is not legal. I don't care if it's in the bylaws. But you knew exactly, by you having it off campus, you knew exactly what you were doing. And the other part, the other side of this argument, the beef that I have is you, grown ass men, coming back to the campus to relive your youth. Like it's over for you, fam. It's over for you, fam. It's like this by this dude coming back after he already graduated from college, coming back to relive fraternity life and perform fraternity rituals. That's like you graduating from high school and coming back to prom. Weirdo. Now you are facing multiple manslaughter, murder, possibly endangerment of a child. I mean, you're in college, so you're really no longer a child, but because you can't you want to come back and relive fraternity life. You want to come back and live the fraternity life, relive those lost years. Y'all aren't going to be satisfied until colleges and universities are going to disavow fraternities and sororities. When you actually think about it, it really speaks to insecurity. Like you finally feel like you belong to something. Now you want to gatekeep and in a roundabout way tell folks and limit and restrict folks and push folks down in front of others and swear it's community. That's a cult. That's a gang. There's nothing brotherly or sisterly about that. Can't be. Can't be. Can't be. Trust and believe that this his name was also Caleb, I believe. McCrary or whatever, is going to start snitching. He'll like the type that'll snitch for a Whopper meal. Trust and believe I will snitch before the food comes. They may not ever find out who was the ringleader, whose idea it was, it doesn't matter. All 10 of you grown ass men are going to face charges. It may not lead to any, maybe one or two convictions. I don't know how well, I can theorize. If all 10 folks are black, they may try to fry y'all asses. I mean, it's Governor Landry time, so who knows? They may not be able to prove it to the point that it sticks to all 10 of y'all, but they got one of y'all. So it'll be interesting, but we really, I think it's time, definitely in these times, that we become our own individuals. The concept is the same whether it's a sorority, a fraternity, a leather club, a cult, a gang, the police department, the fire department, any kind of group that is appealing, and it becomes your whole personality and your whole persona, And y'all take on these attitudes or this sense of entitlement like it just belongs to you. I read the statement from the college. I got pissed. Because you essentially put yourself in it. And of course, you're going to get some heat. I read the statement from the authorities, got pissed all over again. And his parents, I was just like, it comes off to me like there's a disconnect somewhere. You know, now that this man has passed away, you know, it's clear that the school hadn't done enough. They weren't as clockmen. Because how was this able to happen under your noses? And if I were the parents, I would push for the full extent. Oh, I would definitely sue the school and the state. And I would file civil suits against all 10 of those grown-ass men that came back and wanted to relive the fraternity experience. Another point is, you know, once I saw the picture of the first dude, okay, it debunked my original theory that I had last week about, oh, this had to be it could have still been racially motivated, but to find out that the first guy is black, I'm sure the other 9 folks are black as well. Y'all don't understand, like, this kind of shit is probably what led to Project 2025 becoming a thing last year. This only fuels the fire. Justification that they seek to eradicate us without culpability, without the stiff arm of the law. Like, this is the kind of shit. Like, we don't have to look to them to wipe us out because we continue to do it to ourselves and to younger people. Just on our free time because, you know, we can. Is it lead? Are you high? Is it school glue? Help me out. Fendi, like the bag. This is the Eye of the Future.